Chapter 21.
The following morning, fresh snow blanketed the castle grounds, a serene prelude to the chilling challenges lurking within Hogwarts. Severus had once confided in Draco about how vulnerable the castle's defenses were when threatened by an adversary from the inside. Justin Finch-Fletchley and nearly headless Nick became the latest victims of petrification, right on schedule. This time around, Potter didn't find himself laboring to mend things with Finch-Fletchley. The Hufflepuff had bolted with such haste from Malfoy's intimidating serpent that it left no room for suspicion that Potter had incited the creature. Therefore, Potter was not present during the incident. Draco might resemble his father in his reluctance to halt attacks on Muggleborns, a risk that put Hermione in jeopardy, but at least he was managing to alleviate Potter's tarnished reputation. The prospect of Hermione suffering such a fate was a tormenting thought, still gnawing at him after her sharp tirade post-duel. Envisioning her predicament akin to Finch-Fletchley's made him yearn to retreat to his bed, clutch a Moogie, and hide away indefinitely. For the moment, it was just Finch-Fletchley and Nick. All day, Draco was immersed in the whispers and glances that followed his duel with Potter, doing little else. He mused over the idea of asking Dobby to keep tabs on Finch-Fletchley instead of his customary surveillance of Potter. But the risk of Dobby meeting a grim fate weighed heavily as yet another potential failure. Dobby, Hermione, Ron, Harry, Severus, all those dear to him, even his fellow Slytherins, they were all under threat, and Draco felt helpless. Indeed, he could have informed them of a basilisk threat long ago. Draco finagled his way into Severus's quarters for the second night in succession, coinciding with Finch-Fletchley's petrifaction. A confession, perhaps? Severus inquired with a smooth, teasing tone. Draco appealed for entry, citing lingering pain from his fierce spell duel. Eventually relenting, Severus allowed him in. Draco slipped into the library, astonished to find a Christmas tree standing there. Modest in size, adorned simply with silver garlands and twinkling lights of enchanted fireflies, it was the most beautiful tree he had ever seen, even more than grand displays at Malfoy Manor or Hogwarts. His awe grew upon spotting a small vial at its base, bearing his name on it. Intrigued, he picked it up, blinking at its vibrant blue hue. "I knew you never stopped caring," Draco exclaimed with exuberance, to which Severus responded with an expression layered with indescribable emotion. "Should you look closely," Severus admonished, "you'd notice similar tokens intended for Mr. Crabbe, Mr. Goyle, Mr. Knott, and Mr. Zabini. It is, unfortunately, my responsibility as head of house to sprinkle a bit of cheer when a whole cohort insists on remaining here." Severus chuckled at Draco's look of disbelief. "Were you unaware your dorm mates were also staying?" Draco had been relishing thoughts of peace and quiet. "Your commitment to enhance camaraderie is truly reaping benefits, Mr. Malfoy," Severus continued with a hint of sarcasm. "Stop addressing me like that." Draco laughed. "I know you're playing the cold act, but it just sounds too much like my father, and we both know that's not what you want. I'll play along that you're pretending not to be my godfather." Draco witnessed Severus execute the slowest, most deliberate eye roll he had ever seen. It was remarkable. He longed for Severus to do it once more so he could attempt to emulate it. "This lingering injury of yours, from the duel, Draco?" Severus prompted. "I believe the creature petrifying students is a basilisk," Draco blurted out. Severus massaged his temples. "A basilisk? And how did you arrive at this discerning judgment?" As much as Draco wanted to explain he knew because he was from the future, the words wouldn't come. Instead, he managed, "I've studied them. I plan to be an unspeakable." His voice dropped to a more bashful tone. "Plus, I was quite obsessed with dragons and reptilian beings in my youth. Remember that." He'd known almost everything concerning basilisks and similar creatures back in his original second year. Somehow, he hadn't pieced it all together before. "Hard to forget," Severus reminisced, recalling the times he'd been pursued around the Malfoy Manor fountain by the Korean dragon that Draco's aunt had errantly gifted. "You don't still have that beast, do you, Draco?" "Definitely not," Draco reassured. "So, by your extensive reasoning, the culprit is a basilisk, a beast whose gaze kills, not petrifies." Draco wondered if this discrepancy was why his younger self had never suspected a basilisk. Perhaps it wasn't a basilisk, or perhaps that detail had faded in his memory. Or maybe Potter hadn't vanquished a beast at all, but rather some grandiose fantasy conjured by an imaginative Gryffindor. "But sir, no more of this nonsense," Severus commanded. "Go peddle these ideas to your peers." "I haven't any friends, Draco Moped, except Dobby." Severus regarded him incredulously, like his godson had declared a career shift to being a Himalayan shepherd.
"Dobby?
"The house elf you brought to Hogwarts from your manor? You call him a friend?" Draco nodded. "I've been teaching him wizard's chess. He's gotten so good, he outmatches me now." With a burst of inspiration, Draco added, "Perhaps I'll teach him exploding snap next." Severus let his forehead rest against the arm of the chair, reminiscent of Dobby himself. "Enough, Draco." "Go on, Draco. See to your house elf and leave ol' Severus here to ponder the futility of it all," Snape remarked dryly. Draco grinned. "Dobby mentioned something interesting," he announced. "He said that hope's the trail to freedom." Somehow, he wasn't convinced that it was strictly within the rules for a teacher to hurl a tome of such weight in a departing student's direction. The reason why the second-year boys lingered altogether was straightforward. Their fathers had instructed them to. When Draco quizzically asked why, Blaise and Theo harmonized in reply, "Because your dad told them to." Draco and father had managed to maintain polite, if rather vague and mostly misleading correspondence this year, notably lacking in any mention of the Chamber of Secrets. Trusting father to stay within bounds was evidently a fool's hope. "He's been spreading the word around our families that you're the heir of Slytherin," Vince chimed in, emerging momentarily from his bed curtains with a poorly executed conspiratorial wink before retreating back inside. "And apparently, we're here to help you out," Blaise shrugged. "Though you're unlikely to seek our help. Still, anything is better than facing Christmas dinner with Mum's latest zombie-esque spouse." "I'd rather be where there's a half-decent library," Theo added. "Back home, father would drag me to your heart of winter gala this year, Draco. And I loathe galas."
"Vince?
"Greg? You guys okay with staying here as well?" Draco queried, somewhat weary. Greg's face popped out with innocence. "If Blaise stays, then of course we stay," he stated, as if it were self-evident. Clearly, allegiance had been transferred. "You're not going to clue us in, are you?" Blaise lamented. "To be honest, I was beginning to think maybe you weren't the heir after all. But with your father spreading tales." Just like father had always declared, Malfoys hailed from Slytherin's lineage. He simply caught wind of rumors. Likely through you lot loading your fathers with tales. And he's not the sort to deny rumors that build his cadre of power and stature, is he? Draco mimicked father. "Why yes, my son's the heir of Slytherin, going about offing all the poultry, didn't you hear?" No one laughed. Winning them back seemed an impossibility, not without feigning confession to the heir title to placate wounded pride. He might have exerted more effort if they'd only humored his jokes. The Weasleys were certainly more gracious in that regard. Christmas dawned with a raucous melange of youthful sounds, something Draco preferred to the quiet from last year. The 5 second-year lads were the sole Slytherins that stayed behind, granted the freedom of the dungeons. Mere proximity coaxed a return of his old fondness for them all. The boisterous contest over gifts was quite the reminder of the Gryffindor common hubbub. For the most part, Draco observed from his own spot, curtains drawn aside. Before Vince could dive into round 2 of unwrapping what was obviously another box of sweets, Draco proposed unveiling them under the Christmas tree with Severus. It was a sheer delight to witness Severus's expression, slightly perturbed and bemused, as 5 energetic boys levitated mounds of presents, intruding before 9 o'clock at his door. As they descended upon the space, Severus gave Draco a knowing stare, unmistakably holding the young Malfoy accountable for the unforeseen merriment. Truly an audacious act, first blowing up Severus's quarters in November, then bringing waves of exuberance in December. Arranged beneath the Christmas tree, Severus prominently occupied the armchair, a custodian in form, his glass of whiskey emptied and rapidly refilled. Draco skillfully extracted a perfunctory version from Severus of the not-so-merry tale of how Salazar Slytherin wrecked Christmas, before Severus urged them on to unwrap. Draco rarely witnessed such an extravaganza of metallic green and silver adornments. Parental efforts seemingly engaged in one-upmanship, perhaps to dazzle the rumored heir. And, unsurprisingly, Father had veered opposite from last year's tactics, lavishing Draco with superfluous commodities. It wouldn't do for the Malfoy heir to have fewer presents, after all. He probably did have the most, though it was becoming hard to ascertain. Draco had earlier dispatched an owl bearing Hermione's 4th charm, a plain H mirroring the N for Narcissa on his mother's bracelet. He'd lain awake in worry, considering if Hermione might misinterpret it as H for heir instead. Yet nothing was changeable now. So he turned his attention to the assortment: toys, books, elegant quills and parchment, clothes and shoes, jewelry, wondrous trinkets, snacks, and sweets. None among them had exchanged gifts. Fortuitously, their parents compensated sufficiently. The breadth of gifts unfolded in seemingly limitless pages before them, wrapping paper accumulating until Severus commenced its magical vanishing act. Draco cringed inwardly, pondering Severus's perception of them. Severus had grown up amidst leaner means, now witness to these children's gleeful clamor over their largely undeserved windfall. Draco felt relieved he'd chosen more than one present for Severus this time. Theo, too, had given Severus a gift, which pleased Draco so much, he gave him a peck on the cheek. With a blush rivaling a Gryffindor Christmas display, the other boys hooted as Severus uttered, "Mr. Malfoy, if you would allow me to open Mr. Knott's gift, unless, of course, you suspect mistletoe lurks?" Severus maintained an impassive demeanor as he tore open the wrapping of a book on rare sub-Saharan African poisons. Though his cool facade remained intact, Draco suspected its contents genuinely piqued his interest unless it graced his collection already. He remained completely composed as he unwrapped Draco's initial 2 gifts, a costly pair of dragonhide gloves and a tome detailing the latest advancements in spell creation theory.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with more audiobooks. Happy listening!